creations and help in the process of doing it. So Albert has quite interesting, specific profile because he has acted as COO and CTO in small companies, new companies such as Parlem, for example, and also for big companies. And he also holds directive responsibilities in the public administration. So he actually knows which hats belong to each kind of institution, which is important when we're doing this difficult task of transferring technology from academic research in a public institution to business opportunities. So Albert, the word is yours.
Okay, thank you, Jérôme. So nice to be here. It's a pleasure to see that you come on Friday morning, because I thought nobody will be in here. You are in Barcelona, so Thursday night is going out. When I have students at class, it's like few of them appear on Friday. So it's great to see that at least 20 people appear in this morning. I also did the PhD, so it has allowed me to understand sometimes how we think as researchers, and then how we are seen, or how did I see the investors or the business people when they came to the office, like, wow, as we said, those guys go different and they don't talk like us. And that's more or less what I'm going to explain to you. So, well, usually we have a bit of agenda, but it's about, it can be wherever you want to talk, in case you would have an idea before starting this conference. So if you want to ask something about investments or something, I would take note and then I explain it. But usually it's not the case. So then I continue with the agenda, which is how do we see universities and companies? If there is a path to transfer a company, it can be me, it can be us from the university doing it. And how do I get investors, or how do I get the business done? So I want to create my product, I want to deliver a service, and, well, I would need somebody on board. So, well, first of all, what we see, it's obvious, but of course everybody thinks about it. The buildings are totally different. So if you go to the right one, you would think about one type of research, a university, or a library. And if you go onto the left one, you would imagine, well, a bank, office, business, so you will not think it's the same. Same happens here. On the right, of course, it has a blackboard behind him, but even if it hadn't, you would say, well, it's a top-ranked professor at university giving a nice talk, and on the left you would say, wow, he's dealing something important on the phone, which maybe it's not true, but that's our perception, and that's between universities and companies. So when we talk about different language, well, we have a common language in both sides. So when we talk about companies, we talk about business. When we talk at universities, we talk about which research grants you've got, so we can do something different. When we are in business and you have a company, you talk, which type of investors do you have? Have you been with that guy that met yesterday at the party or something? And then you go to the university and you talk, did you finish your results yesterday? Were they great? So the type of conversations are totally different. The same happens with customers and publications, and with patients. And in the university, we don't talk about patients. We talk about the impact we're going to give. We talk about how better solutions we're going to bring to the sector. But the other ones is like directly like customers. And also in science, when we talk about impact, there's also the H index that goes directly with publications instead of customers. So we talk about how important our research, or how many other colleagues are referencing us, so we have a better impact, but not in business. So we have an impact about our ego, about the knowledge transfer to other universities, and, well, it's totally different, the aim that both types of companies follow. So we could imagine a university type of huge company. So it will be one search the research, and the other one search for business, so incomes, results. And there's a huge question. So can we move from the university to the company sector? The other one, everybody knows that it's possible. So they start studying, they start at university, and they can follow a path. They can do a master, they can find a professor, maybe they can do a PhD, they can stay at university. So you know that the path on the right, it's mostly clear if you are a good student. But on the left-hand side, I'm a huge professor, so I'm top research professor, and I want to bring my results to a company. So how do I do it, okay? So first of all, what we have usually, it's, imagine a lab. It doesn't have to be like this, but usually you have, even in computer science, so we have labs, but usually our laptops today. So maybe it's in our homes with different laptops and we are doing different things, or with a Raspberry Pi in technology, but then we already have enhanced labs for more research science applied. And one day it works, so we have results, something works. Now, come on, it works, it's great, we can do something. So in this stage, if it would be awesome and everybody would love it, for some reason, we could go and search friends, families, etc., to continue our research, or we can even go to the European Union or to some research grants, as it will be like a pre-seed or too early stage result. It's just a result that works in the lab. Maybe it doesn't work anywhere else. So then we need a receipt. Okay, it works, great. So which stage of development of this technology are we, or this result? Is final? It works in all cases? Can we reproduce it? So it works once, but it will work in any environment. It will work in any case. Of course, then we come to help, and we ask this bad question, but it's necessary, which is there any real application? So can you imagine this result applied to something in your daily lives, in any service or product that you know? If it's not ready, that we say, well, we don't know if it's going to work to this area or it's going to work in the other area, then we try to do a proof of concept. And of course, if we have this proof of concept or we have this starting part, then we want to validate it in a small, real and controlled lab, so we can see the growth and we can somehow share more results in the future. So in cases of medtech and other products, also we ask the other one. So is it a possible prototype? Can we go to a hospital or can we go somewhere and test it? So it will, even in the names of not having freedom to operate, etc., all we need, but can we somehow implement it? So can we work with it? Then we come back to the proof of concept, and well, in academics, we say are more like experiments. So as researchers, we like to tick and play with all the type of variables we have. So if it has 5 variables, imagine a formula that we got a method on how to do the things in the lab. We will try one day to heat a bit more, another day just to open the door and close it, so the heat will exit and see if it changes. So we will do many, many proof of concepts, and each of them will be nearly the same, but just changing something. In business, no. In business, what you want is, which is the possible best solution we have with all the variables, and let's do it as if it works. So let's try it and explain that it's going to work. And if it doesn't work as we thought, we're going to get many inputs from real environment that maybe changing, then adjusting just some variables, we're going to find the final combination. Of course, in business, maybe, if we compare, may take longer path, because you already go to the market, you already test it, it doesn't work properly, but you are tuning it. And in academic, it will arrive the final best product that works in all scenarios, but it would have taken many years. So the time of funding one or the other one, it's totally different. If we think about timing, the academic one will take years or more months, and the business one will get faster as it will go to try it and see if it works. Well, there's an example in here from Harvard Business Review, but usually explains that if we try in a chain, right? So they have some products and they can affect two types of variables at the same time. They don't try one, so they affect both of them. And in this case, they affect the demand. So they wanted that people buy it, the product from the private companies they had and not in the public spaces where they have it on the shelf. So what they did was increasing the price for the public one and decreasing at the same times the ones they had in the private one. So directly you affect two variables of the real environment. And of course, then you measure if it works. If people still go to the public one, then we have a problem that nobody knows the private one. If people start buying into the private one, it was because of the price. So you test, you do like a proof of concept, even that you have the final product on the shelf, right? So, well, in research, what we have is first we identify. That's one of the most difficult parts, at least for me, which means to talk with all researchers and start learning if they have some valuable part, and how we say it's valuable, because we have to evaluate it. If we evaluate it and say, okay, maybe it can have a market, maybe has potential to follow. Imagine that it's a drug. It can go to the paths that the market allows them. Then maybe we're going to protect it, because it's the first part that you think about it. If we have the protection, then we can go to the market. It will be easier for us. Everybody will see how much value we bring because we have the protection. And also, maybe we have a deal because we don't think usually that we are going to do it ourselves. So we think directly that some huge laboratory or company is going to help us. So we are thinking directly in a deal. It doesn't say so, but it should continue that then we create a relationship. So if you have a deal, then you create a new relationship with the new company or the new spin-off that you're creating, but you don't want to go. So finally, we have a relationship that we must follow, okay? Well, this is the same path explained by Nova Southeastern University. So they say that we have research, then maybe we disclose it, we do a primary evaluation, then we check ownership and assignment, then we check the protection of IP, commercialization plan, and finally we go to see which of the paths are we going to follow. So if it's a startup formation or is a possible license to a third party. And if goes, maybe at the end we arrive to commercialization and of course revenue and management. So we can go at the end of it that we have the development plus the IP management. Bam, we have a spin-off, a startup, we have something that becomes a company. So where will industry and investors look? They arrive at university and they ask some of them, because there are different types of investors, not everybody comes for the same things. Once they come and say, we want new solutions, we want something we've never seen. We want prior art before it goes to anywhere else, so we want something we've never seen, so we want to be in advance of our competitors, so we check for novelty. We check even for possible patents, so they want something that even it's not patented, so they've signed all the disclosure agreements, blah, 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 but they want to know maybe what's going to happen. Then we have others that come and say, I have this problem, so do you have this solution for it? So you have a solution for it? If yes, wherever it takes, of course, in a proper deal, but we want the solution of this problem. And then we have another one that comes and says, I want useful solutions, which means explain me something that may work, and I will check back. So he will check back with all the different types of companies he has in his bag, because he's invested already in 20, in 15, and he will check if some of those may apply this industrial application. So maybe they are able to implement that license that you have with this patent, or they can even get it further, right? So they can develop it in further TRL. So we have the different TRLs. I guess everybody is aware of this. No? No, not aware of TRL. So you know the stages of the TRLs. It's how developed is your science or technology. It goes from, I remember, from 0 to 7, and I don't know if it's there 8, but I will check it. Yes, so it's easier when this happens. I go to the European Union. Sorry, it's easier. TRL, well. So that's what I would be doing with my mobile phone. It's better than I do it in here. So it's 9. Usually we move so in the low scale that usually we are talking with researchers when they are in TRL 3, when it's something that works as a proof of concept in the lab. Okay. In the TRL 2 is just a concept or application that you think is going to work. And on the first one, it's just basic principles that you say, maybe we are going to research on this, and maybe it's going to work, okay? So instead, in here, it's easier. So a basic idea. The other one is a concept or technology that you say it's going to work when you assemble it. The third one is you assemble it, so you go to the lab and in real test. The fourth is that you validate it. Okay, so you go to the lab and you say, yes, we have a result. That's the place where I was saying, wow, we have a result in the lab. That's TRL 4. Then we validate it in important sector, and that doesn't mean in real life. That means that we go to a possible company, to a possible laboratory, so pharmaceutical company, and we check it there if it works also for them. That's a validation of TRL 5 in a relevant place. Then when we say TRL 6 is that you check it nearly outside, right? So you check it with patients or well, in this case, it will be pigs, I guess, or mouse. So it's not in the real last type of event, because that's the TRL 7. That's when we will be, in the case of a pharmac, it will be the patient. So you do tests on patients, you check that it works. The same things you've seen in 6, you check it in 7. And then, well, then it comes the long path in the pharmaceutical types. I'm talking just with this one because I thought that maybe it works better for you. So it comes the validation and certification of the real path. So it means that, okay, you tried with 10 patients and it worked. Now you need to prove it that it works in a cohort of this type, in another cohort of that type. The FDA or the FCC in here, it's the EC, validates that everything works as a schedule. And finally, great, you go and you try it with some groups that are outside of the ones we've set. So you try it in real common market. So you go to some pharmaceuticals, well, some chemist on the street, and you try it there with some patients. And also you check them, so you follow them. And number 10 is not here, but it means it's out of the TRL, so it's product, of course, on the shelf, everywhere, working, blah, blah, blah. So as you can see here, from the lab, it's from 1 to 4. Simulation or emulating the real life, it's 5 and 6. And then real environment or real test is from 7 to 9. So getting back in here, sorry, I didn't include it because I thought everybody would be following this. Well, when we are in here, then we check in which TRL are, and of course, it will allow us to understand which are your possible options for going to an investor or another investor type, because maybe one investor has his own labs that will help you if you are in TRL 4. Maybe you are already tested in labs, you already have it tested in animals, you already tested in some patients, then you don't need that one. What you need is somebody that already has the delivery, so already has the go-to market. So you go to a pharmaceutical that maybe has a VC inside and help us from there to invest on it. So do we protect our solution or invention, or we can do other things? So one of it is to publish it. Okay, great. Now everybody understands it. Nobody could patent it, but everybody can use it. So that's one of the points. If I didn't patent it before, of course, that's something that we already check. We can keep it secret. We don't publish it, we don't patent it, but it's like always we said, the Coca-Cola recipe or the McDonald's sauce recipe, that you don't explain it to anybody else, but you don't patent it. So it's just you who knows what it works in there, and you keep it like this. Or you patent it, you after that publish it, of course, and finally you can do a license. And this is where we have to think about it. So we can license it to a new company. The new company, of course, if we build it, it's you who's going to be in there or going to follow it. So it's a spin-off. It comes from the university or the research center. Or license it to an existing company. So we just give the option for others to deliver this product. So we have to do a legal check. And that's when the lawyers came in here. As I said, they are like advisors for research and investor groups. So in this type of point, the lawyers are not seen just as lawyers. So they also advise you on options, because it's you who are going to choose which one's best. They are going to say, you can do this or you can do the other thing, and it's you who are going to do it. So the first thing they ask is, name the activity that brings your research and development results. So you have to properly explain in some paragraphs, what have you done? Did you have any external funding? That's when it comes your thoughts, and you start thinking, okay, I have an ERC grant. Maybe from that ERC, yes, I spent some on it to developing. I have also a ministerio from the minister project that also help on that. So you start checking what do they say in the regulations, if they allow you to use it, or it's just common source for everybody because European Union says that anything you develop, it has to be for everybody. Then, well, you have only one path to follow. Do you have any previous publications? Well, then you ask if you already published something. We check that you don't disclose at least the core of what you want to keep secret or patent, okay? If you collaborated with somebody in the past for this work, that's a tricky question because we cannot follow. We are not the CIA or the FBI. We are just gonna believe you. And if you say, I only work with that professor or that doctor on the hospital or that lab, we're gonna believe you, and well, we're gonna take it into account just in case to talk with them when we are gonna patent it, if they feel comfortable with what we are doing, even just an advice. Because later what you don't want is that they start suing you because they say it was them who created or something. We also ask this other question. Did you collaborate with somebody in the past? That's the one I said. No. We check the dates. So we check when everything happened. So can you say that you talked with them before you had the research grant and we were not doing the project, so it was just an idea? Maybe, of course, they helped you, but it's like having a beer with a colleague. Come on, he had the idea, but it's not real. It's not in the process of the lab. He has not been testing it. Nothing to do about it. Of course, then don't talk about it in ideas because maybe he can develop it and you don't, but that's how it works. So we also check that when you publish it, it was after, at least one day after we sent the files for patenting it. And then it comes the time of saying the authors, who is in there. So finally you have to say who is gonna become author of that patent or that method we're gonna patent, or even who is gonna be in the, not patent, but in the secret. So something that you say we developed and it has a value, and we also identify who's gonna be part of it in the secret we kept. And then, again, where to use it, a real case application. Sometimes you narrow it too much, and sometimes you broaden it, so you say it works for everybody. Like when we go with gene editing guys at UPF, in the PRBB, el Centre de Recerca Biomédica, they say, it's genetic, so it works for all cases. Okay, great, but can we narrow it a bit? Or we go to others that say just works for a type 3 of epilepsy case that it only happens once in a lifetime and you have to be checking it. Oh, it's so narrow that maybe we can go farther with it. So we are not, right now it could happen to any of us, but we are not monetarizing our heads. So, well, it's difficult, right? So, well, also it's important a real case application. So it's something that we are gonna evaluate. Then, what do we have now? Well, we have an intellectual property or rights to be directly exploited. So can we go to the market and sell something and nobody's gonna attack us? Or do we have a business in here? Something, wait. They should appear later, but it stay there. And do you have a business plan to follow? And the most important is after we check all of this is what you want to do. Licensing to a third party, to another company, licensing to your new spin-off, your new startup, something different. And that's when it comes weird, like, okay, I want to do something different. Then explain me. I changed my mind to other stuff, but, well, I don't have any other option, right? And then it comes back and says, what do I have to do? Licensing to third party, to spin-off. Well, instead of that, what you have to do is talk. And that's a difficult one for researchers because you have to exit your office, exit the lab, and go and talk as much as possible with different people, ones that are in the market. And when we say the market is where you think it's going to be the market, you have to talk to other colleagues, and especially the ones that already built something on it. So if they had experience on dealing with creating a spin-off, it's better because maybe they can help us to understand the path that we are going to follow. Also possible customers. What will be interesting for you if this works? Or, of course, in the science, usually it's always the answer is yes. But if you have to wear medical equipment or something, maybe sometimes even it helps you. Somebody would explain you that no, or I don't want to be visible wearing that helmet all day. I know that it may save me from the epilepsy attack, but I don't want to be with a helmet or always wearing it on. So maybe my possible customer already explained me that he prefers to die than staying 10 years with a helmet everywhere. And, well, you have a possible customer check that says your invention should evolve. Maybe you have the right option, but it should evolve in something else. And then you also talk with investors, and you say, wow, I'm going to talk with investors on something that I don't have. Of course, you have your license possible, you have your patent, you have something already thought, you have the possible market, you have maybe an experiment, maybe you have a proof of concept, and, well, you have to find the right investor, but they also are going to help you explaining what they can do for you. And if this happens, well, we may find something which is a company that wills to obtain and sign a license deal. And that's not so common because the researchers usually tend to say directly for the spin-off, or I want to be the one who brings to the market this. But if you find somebody that may be the one to sign that license, well, we can analyze them. And what we analyze is the possibilities to bring that product that you have or that idea, concept, proved on the lab to a real environment, and also if they have a business plan or a go-to-market strategy. That helps us to understand what can become the deal. So as it says, if everything seems okay, then if we're going to license it, we can start thinking about how much is going to be a fair deal between us and the company. Because, of course, for the researchers, as we are, sometimes I've seen different things. Ones that value nothing, like, wow, 10,000 euros are they going to pay me for this? That's great. And you say, come on, they said they are going to make millions on it. And others that see that they are going to make millions and they ask, but I want hundreds of millions. And you say, wow. So you have to explain properly and assess the possible business, the possible go-to-market, what is bringing every part, and fairly explain to the researchers and also the company what would be a possible realistic deal, right? So not so low, but also not so high. And do we know the difference between a spin-off and a startup? So that's a question to the rows 13. No? Yes or no? No? But you know that those are companies, right? At least. So a spin-off or a startup are companies. The big difference is the spin-off usually has research transfer, but there's also a professor involved, a team involved from the university that aims to follow that company. So then is when we call it, in a company will be a spin-out, but in academics is a spin-off. It comes from the research and continues the research in a company. And a startup is, okay, you had the idea, that's more difficult sometimes, on the weekend. It's totally different what we are doing in the lab, but totally different means totally different. And then you want to build a company. That company, of course, you come from the university, we may help you, but it's your company, nothing to do with research at university. If you do a patent, it's because you are going to develop something totally different than what you're doing, and that's sometimes difficult for the professors, etc., to check. But it may also happen that you become a startup. It's a young company, innovative company, with their possibilities, with service or product, but it should not be transfer from the university. And when we say transfer, as I said, it's also know-how. And that's difficult for most of the people to understand. So your brain should, or at least for what we account inside universities as the brain, so what you're developing, it should be totally different from what you're doing in the startup. And it will be then allowed to be named a startup. So as anybody else in the street or students can build a company, and if it's innovative, we are going to call it startup. But when a professor or the group goes in there, and the university also goes inside the company, so we also enter in the company with some part of shares, then we call it spin-off. What happens? Well, we have in here the group. So we have the research group head, the head of the group, the senior scientists, the support team of the group. We have more scientists in the research group. Some are just PhD students, some are master students doing their internship, blah, blah, blah. And when we say we're going to build a spin-off, we talk who could be the director or CEO or president of the company. And all of them usually say, it should be me. It's me who are the one that get most effort. Even the one you think, come on, it's just the new internship that arrived. Well, but that part of the code, it's the only one that makes everything work. So it's me, the CEO. You talk with the head of the group and says, I have more experience. I build the group, so it should be me. Well, you can imagine, it's not about ego. It's how we project ourselves in the business. And in business, we think, society is not going to understand it, so it should be me, who is the president and runs the company. So, well, then it comes reality. So we have the research group on the right, and we have to explain that usually, the head of the group and the senior scientists of the group could become what we call research director in a company. Sometimes it has different names, CTO, CSO, CRO, COO. Well, it goes further because everybody adds that letter in between, that it's research, it's a science officer, it's a technology officer, okay. But it's the research director, okay? So it will follow the aim of what they were doing at university. Then we have the support team. When we say support team, is the ones that help us get the grants, go for it, help us developing all the project, search for funding, etc. But sometimes we have this type of people in the group. Well, they could become the chief financial officer if they are really good on doing finance and getting support. They could go to the chief marketing officer if they are really like business development, and finally they get to marketing, or they could be the product manager. So something that the research director and all these type of scientists are doing, we are going to have somebody who runs it and manage it. And finally, the more part of the group, if they want to join, are going to become scientists. And when we say scientists, of course, you've seen thousands of names in here. Junior or senior developer, junior or senior lab attention. Well, I've seen many types of names dealing in well, I don't know how to call it, but it's the ones that follow the research director. So they're developing things, and they continue developing things inside the company. And wow, if you are in a seed or pre-seed phase, the investors are going to help you with the red ones. And why do we have a red one on the right? Well, sometimes we don't have inside our own university a support team. So that's the first part. Maybe when we are in really pre-seed stage, we should check if somebody can help us, because we are doing research. We are not developing a product, or we are not developing the business plan, blah, blah, blah. So maybe we need a support team first on the right. And afterwards, we need to find somebody, which is also in red, that has experience in going to all congresses, going to all investors. He has a network of contacts. So, and he has also run another company. So maybe he has also managed, right, his experience in management. And somehow, if we don't have the support team and we want to build it, well, don't go and say, because I know how to run spreadsheets and I know big data, I'm the CFO. No. Financials have so many tricks with the, we're going to say, the state, with bureaucracy, that you're going to get burned and you're going to leave it. So somebody that is experienced on it should go also and become the CFO, the CMO. So for that, we have it in red. So we need always more people when we say we're going to become a startup or a spin-off. So we need to check all these red ones. And then that's nearly, yeah, I'm going okay. We have the type of spin-off investment. So we go from the proof of concept. So that's when we were talking about how we could do something, and maybe we get another research grant, or we go to the European Union and we ask for the fast track to innovation because I had a research grant and I can go for it. And with an SME, we make colleagues, blah, blah, blah. Of course, now we have something better. Now it's like an MVP or something we can show, or it's a possible future drug that we can show to others. Then we can go to angels. Angels are people, so business angels are already, we would say, all managers that made an exit from a company. They have money sometime, and they say, I want to give it back, which also can bring me more money. But some of them are more philanthropic, or want to give it to you because they see themselves on what they were happening when they were searching for. So you would see different types. Those are the angels. And well, there are bands, networks of business angels in all cities. So also here in Barcelona, we have like 3 or 4 bands, so business angel networks. You go to one of them, you explain them. But those are not going to become with millions. Come on, they are private guys. So they're going to come to you with 10,000 euros, some 50,000 euros. Even there's one that believes really much in the product and says 100,000 euros, but they're not going to come with millions. Maybe if they join, then they are going to come. But then we are talking about venture capital. Usually if they want to join, what they do is they have maybe $1 million, but with $1 million they cannot start investing in 10, or they can go to help a venture capital, which is somebody who's going to run all this money. All of them are going to set it in there. So the venture capital has more millions now. And they may help you also in this phase when you already pass through the seed capital. And why we call a seed capital? And usually we listen pre-seed, seed. Well, pre-seed, so it's the 2 first. You don't announce it. You don't say you're searching for money. You just go to direct people and you talk with them that you need it. So you made them on board of the company. But then when you announce it and you explain that if you give me 100,000, you get 2% of the company, you're doing a round. It's the first public thing that you make to everybody else that you are searching for money. That's the seed capital. And after that, as I said, the venture capital is going to help. Maybe corporate venture capital, that is when Repsol or Novartis or Bayern has their own venture capital, which is they are not asking a lot of private guys to bring millions, so themselves have millions and set it in a venture capital, and then we say corporate venture capital. And there's also another type of those, which is called patient or impact capital. And patient is not about patient, so it's the ones that come easy, right? So they don't want to exit next year. They say, okay, 10 years, okay, 11 years, so that's patient capital. It's not a fast capital. And, well, here's where we listen to the series of rounds, and they say, like the song, A, B, C, D, E, F, and then F stands for funding, usually, because nobody arrives to the F. They stop before, and I don't say you. And as I said, don't sing it, but every time that I see it right now, it's them. That song stays on my head, and for that, I had to write it. And finally, there's something that we always talk about investment, but finally, maybe you go to public markets. And then it's when all those guys goes off the company, or they may be on board, but in shares right now, and it's in the public stocks. And that's when all these type of things stop. You don't have to search for more rounds. It's not possible. It just, you can dilute the type of stocks you have, etc., to have more stocks so more people can join and buy it. So you are in the public market, general market. So that's the Euro stocks, that's the MAP in Spain. Of course, it's the IBEX, blah, 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 but you are not going to be on those huge ones. So you start with the small ones, well, small, more general ones like Euro stocks. Then, of course, at least in Barcelona, I listed the ones we have near us, but in every city, every country, you would find the same. So those are people who at least it's in the lawyer sector or somehow and helps you developing your startup or company. And this is the number of companies they help on the 2017. So it's not in different years, it's in the same year. So it goes until 60, that maybe you don't see the top number. And well, those are the names. Of course, we don't account in there. So as university, we created UPF Ventures, and we only help spin-offs. So we will be on the type of 1 or 2 at the end per year. Okay, so we are really far on the long tail. We will be at the end. But of course, all of them are from UPF, so we only help UPF companies. Now that we have startups, of course, we could say that we would be around 20 or 30. So we will be again on top, but again, they are not in the general public, so they are just from UPF. So we only account the deals between private ones and other lawyer firms, etc. And as I said, I didn't expect it to be so long. We have 10 minutes of questions. If not, I have some presentations, so I can fill the gap. Don't worry. So do you have some? Yes. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, sorry. Great, great. Well, I can listen to you.
Ahora, sí.
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. So my question is about the spin-offs, because you said it's like part of the research of university. So I'm wondering if the university is usually a stakeholder in a spin-off, but if that is the case, are there not like moral cases? Because a spin-off, I guess, has the objective to like win money, and that money is made with research funded by the university, so by the public state, but the money is going to just some people. So I'm wondering what happens there.
Okay, so I can answer it, even I let this one, just to check what does we as university do before we have the spin-off. So sometimes the group has money on it and they can pay for everything, but usually it's not the case. It's the university who helps them get the patent to get it in some countries. So we are start paying like if we were a company. We are patenting things. Patents should be for companies, not in that sense from university, but you also want to protect the research, so at the end you go for patents. That has sometimes a huge cost. That's the first one. Then we pay for getting investors on it, having meetings. We go to different places with them. We go to congresses, and we sometimes also help them. And then we especially include not only the percentage we have of the company, but also royalties on the patent. and where all this money is going to be. Because, as you said, if we got 10%, 5%, 2% of the company, somehow if at the end, one day it's valued in millions, university should get 200,000 euros or 300,000 euros when in exit. Well, this money comes back in part to the group of research that still remains at university, and another part goes directly for more patents. So in a sense, we keep doing the research and we keep helping them when it comes back. So there's also another thing that I want to explain, which is sometimes, as you've seen in here, let me show you this one. You see the research head of the group. Usually this guy doesn't want to be in the company, but he wants to own part of the company, but he wants to remain at university. As I said, the brain is the know-how. So university will tell him he cannot go at a 0% to that company. And if he goes with a huge percentage, we say more than 10%, so 11, 12, then he's outside university working. So he's at university and outside. And everything he would do in the company, how could we claim it's not from the university, it's from the company, so everything will be a bit of a mess. Directly what we do is, if we are part of the company, we are saving him because it's the university who is inside the company, and it's the university where he works. So in front of administration and general public, his brain, right, his know-how is 100% in the university. Of course, if there's an exit, he has to think what to do. He has to stay on the company or university. But, well, that's his lucky choice. If it's millions, what he's talking about, if it's peanuts, that's easy too. He's going to stay at university.
Thank you.
Just to comment on the not on the answer, but on the question, especially when you're still in the bachelor, so you mostly know the academic system, your professors, the research they do, the project they have, and there is this romantic vision that companies may spoil then the public effort, so trying to size benefit out of it and earn money. But this is not the truth. The truth is that the university and academic institutions have their range of competencies, and companies have their range of competencies. And the competencies you find in an academic institution are not designed to produce in mass a solution that can benefit the public, because you need a system of production, you need a system of quality, you need a system of support, you need a system of distribution, of marketing, you need to keep up the product in a competitive world, financially, technological competitiveness, etc. This is not the mission of the university. This is not the mission of the public institutions. So the only solution to do that is actually to have a company. So the interest of a public institution is education, knowledge production, and there are different criteria to assess whether it's doing well. This is what Albert has presented, publications, etc., etc. But if you want really to have a product benefiting to the society, you need this different set of competencies that only a company actually can develop. So there is not a duality, the good and the good and the bad. It's really something that has to come together in a sequential, really in a sequential pipeline. First, knowledge generation with public money, because you're losing money actually when you're doing research. So you need the society to invest on that. And when it's mature, so you need to develop another set of competencies which you find in the companies.
In a highly ideal world, it will be also the public institutions who would develop the product or the service. So imagine all hospitals able to develop their own programs, systems, their machinery once they know, because the public knowledge comes from, usually, we'll say most of the cases, from research. And research comes from public institutions, which are universities. So at the end, it will be like a general thing to happen. But then when you check bureaucracy and how everything's done, in research, what happens is it will be able, so we can create the spin-off, but the hospital, it will not be able to say a 10% time of the doctor is to build his own program, or a 10% devoted time of him is not taking patient's care. So if you imagine this just in a hospital, you would say, come on, it makes sense, he's not developing, or he has to leave and step out as a doctor. Then at the end, maybe the public administration can start buying this machine, and in some years it will buy so many that the price decreases, and we have benefited from a public research. The general public has the machinery and the types of solution, but of course there's an intermediate that nobody likes in the common sense, which is the private, that may win lots of money, but also can lose them because they also risk everything to bring that product further. And nobody explained them that sometimes works. And when we talk about failure, I didn't explain it in here, but usually before was 1 about 40. Some years back it was 1 about 10 works. And right now there are some that say 1 about 6 works. But still there are 5 or 8 or 9 that fail. So again, going to the private company, having your spin-off or your startup, well, it has a 90%, between 50 or 90 to failure. So it's a huge stake that you take. And just for understand, we only talk usually in the media about this 2% greatness, right? The unicorns, blah, 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 but we don't talk about the 98% that are just surviving. Yeah, go.
I have a question. So I'm a senior scientist, so I did quite a lot of development, different things. And, it happened several times to me that I had the feeling that we were developing something that might have potential to become a product. But every time you stop, you stop at the point where you have the feeling that you have potential, but in order to make it a real product, you need to spend a lot of resources in further developing, making documentation and things like that. And we always stop there. So I would like to have your comment about this huge obstacle that I was never able to overcome.
So the first one, as a researcher too, the first part is the fun, and the fun in happy ways. And when you ended it, you start thinking about another possibility, another thing which your brains are happy to do, a new thing, new stuff, we're starting something, and you don't want to stick to the one you already demonstrated. It works. So for me, it's finished, right? It ends there. Then there should be a possibility to, at least the Germans do it properly with the Fraunhofer Institutes, if you know them. They are always checking all universities, all research groups, anything works. They try to take it from them. They explain, we're going to give you back 15%. It's not anymore yours, so you will have 50% of anything we do if it has positivity. And if not, you were going to keep it on a drawer and leave it there, right? So we'll take it. In the US, I've seen Stanford, MIT, Harvard, so the top ones have what they call, it's not a laboratory, well, they call it with a nice word, but it's also teams that stay 6 months or 1 year in a project that was not going further, and they see potential in it. And if it works, the team can join that project. But of course, the university doesn't only gets a royalty or a percentage of it. And I haven't seen it quite in here. So in Europe, it's not so common. Just, I would say, the Fraunhofer Institute that move everywhere in Europe. So they are going to also open some here in Spain. So they check wherever they can see potential. So they see lots of patents and no products. Wow, we should be in there because one of those patents may work. And especially here, at least in Spain, we are bad at it. So we have lots of patents and few get to a company. And some others, like I said, in Germany, they have fewer patents, but we would say about 10, 4 go to a company. And here we can say like from 60, 4 go to a company. So you just take into your head that we kept lots of important results for somehow one day somebody finds it. But even, I would say, if your results have been published, in the future, maybe somebody will take them. So solar panels were about the 70s. It was public institution developing it. Now the patents are out, as you can imagine, and everybody tries to develop their own solar panel, which is great for us. But we would say somebody left it on a drawer and don't want anymore to develop the solar panels because nobody was buying it, no government believed it. So I would say always keep doing research, keep trying to protect it or publishing it, and somehow, even if you don't do it, if it's important and has impact, it will arrive one day.
Thank you.
Actually, this is a bit linked to the figures that you have shown. No? When you have to start to build the team, was then the CEO or the CTO, CMO, etc., and having a clear instrumental figure in the system, such as Fraunhofer Institute, was very efficient. So I've read some numbers recently, and Germany is overperforming by far the US in terms of relative numbers, of course. Probably thanks to that systematic way of approaching technology transfer. I have a question, Albert. When you approach, so you're developing a company, you've developed your team, so you have people who know what they're talking about, financial management, etc., and now you need money. You cannot go on public funds because there are annual calls and you need to write a project, so it takes several weeks. Then you need to wait for the results of the competition. It takes several months. And in the end, you got the money transfer, so maybe 1 year has passed. So you need to go for faster turnover of money. Depending on your level of development, depending on your TRL, so is there a systematic figure or a systematic way to know which kind of possible investor you approach? A business angel, venture capital?
I would say it will be the best thing to happen. But as I said before, imagine that business angel that has 1 million, can invest in 10, and have already invested in 9. But it's the one best for you, but he only has 15,000 euros. When you go ask him 200,000, he only has 50,000. And this happens again and again. So they have even VC funds. They have 5 years to invest, and you don't know in which stage they are. So you don't know if they just can invest in only one and it has to be 2 million because the fund asked them to do it like this. And you go and ask 100,000, they cannot invest in you, but they love you and they say, in the next round, a year after, we're going to invest in you. But as somebody told me, at the public administration, we feel cozy. We feel the hot all time, everything has energy, etc. And outside makes some cold, and you're going to feel it when you do your startup or spin-off. And it may happen that you cannot wait. My own experience is I built like 3 companies, and I had to sell it just for covering the cost that I had. So I stayed the same, never exits in millions, as you can see. I would not be in here doing this talk, but it's okay because you know that somebody else may help you. And usually as researchers, I can explain myself. I did something about open data in 2010, which nobody was doing, transparency and etc. at city councils. I did another in blockchain in 2013 when nobody was even knowing Bitcoin in here, and I didn't invest it, luckily, because now it will be them. But somehow, if I had, well, I have even 10 coins that we bought a bike with it, and I have 0, so it's, again, a loser profile, but it shows you that researchers advance, so we are usually talking about here. So sometimes we are in the prior novelty, in the possible of a patent. Come on, if you are doing the patent, it means that nobody is doing it. It means that it's so new that nobody has ever tried before. It's not going to take 1 year to the market. So the go-to-market is not next year we are having sales, we are having incomes. It's 6 years from now, 8 years from now, we're going to have incomes. So we have 8 years or 6 years of going to talk with all those guys. And for that, we say Series A, B. So you know that if your seed capital has a figure, Series A usually is by 4, this figure. So that's the only one that we know because it's the most common one, so we can analyze. And the common trend is if you ask for 1 million in seed, you're going to have 4 in Series A. If you ask for 2 million in seed, you have 8 in Series A. After that, the other series is wherever it will need. So maybe B is 20, it doesn't have sense, and another one it's just 5, which already asks for 4. So after that, you don't see that ramp up. But from the seed to the A, of course, it's by 4, and some of them also leave the company. It changed everything, so we could start even what will happen next. If everything goes fine, and we start doing series, then even the company changes because some investors will ask you to go faster, some will ask you to go global, and then well, it will change a lot the type of people that we need. Even the CEO can change. So.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. And just like question, we're a bit late, but we've started late, so I take the responsibility of the delay. Is it a good strategy if, for example, you go to business angel, and well, you need 500,000 or 1 million, so they can only give you 100,000. So is that a good strategy to go back to them and say, with your 100,000 share, you're already making a good investment because I have revised my progression plan, or because I'm coming with side funding that will complement your funding and then make your investment secure? Or is that something that you shouldn't do normally?
So usually what we would tell him, or I would advise to tell him, is we will take you into account because you're willing to invest on us. Mm-hmm. We're going to find ways of getting the other 400. In that case, you were asking 500,000 and they give us only 100,000. We're going to search ways of having this 400. But if we don't get it, we can get to the percentage of it. So if we get 300,000, that will be 400. You don't have to invest 100, maybe 80,000. And maybe he will feel comfortable, or even he will keep the 100,000 on us. And it will allow you even to close the round, or the possible round now, because you ask for just one investor, now you will have more than one. But he may lead to other ones. As I said, imagine that this guy is really important in the sector of investment. If I know that that guy has invested on you or wants to invest on you, for me, it's not going to all the procedure of checking your profile, your team. He has done it already. So for me, it's great. I can invest on you because he has done it before. I know that the profiling, the pattern, he has checked everything and he wills to invest. So it's going to be easy talk. The second and the third one is going to be easier. And even if you come with him, then you have even more possibilities of success.
Thanks. Okay.
Okay.
So if there is no further questions, so thank you again, Albert.